Calling the meeting back to order. Council members, just to orient us as to where we are, we're still on Bill 39, Draft 3 as amended, and we're going, let's see, we completed memorandums 1, 2, number 4 was, 2, 3, number 4 was withdrawn, number 5 we completed, so we're back to parts of number 1, because Ms. Ford has some additional amendments, so I think that's where we're going to start off. Ms. Ford, you have the floor on a motion to amend.
Thank you. Move to amend Bill 39, Draft 3 with the contents of Communication 150.55. It should be on your desk at this point in time. Okay, what I did is...
You need a second if some...
Oh,
Second.
thank you.
Okay, so you're on 5.5.
5.5.
Okay.
This is for the KAU video conferencing site. So first of all, I'd like to explain, this is not a council office. This is a video conferencing site, just like North Kohala will be. It is not an office. It's not even in a county facility. It's not even a room that we have to ourselves. We share it with the library and the children, and all of those things are going on around us at the same time. So, but I pulled this off so it was understandable by the council members what we're going to be doing. So you'll see the first section, we're asking for $2,900 for the modem, $6,700 for the site coordinator to save the county money by not having staff, of anybody's staff, driving to Ocean View to take care of this. And there's an additional $500 that we're adding to the rent. The $4,800 is for 4 meetings a month, but we do have special meetings, budget meetings, such as this, overflow meetings, and so we put in an extra $500 to cover those meetings should they occur. And the money is coming out of our contingency fund. I'm removing $10,100 to provide services to KAU for the video conferencing site so that they can testify. I'm asking for your support.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ford. Any comments from council members? Mr. Onishi is on his way. Yeah, I thought he was here, but anyway, so there's a motion to amend, as explained by Ms. Ford. Any comments, council members? Ms. Eoff.
So this would add to the money that's already in the legislative branch's budget for KAU, which is approximately $7,200. Is that correct? Is there money already in the budget for...
There's $7,200 in the budget for the
rent.
KAU site.
Or what is the $7,200 for?
I thought that covered, Ms. Ford, you want to answer that? Do you want me to answer that?
You can go ahead.
Okay, yep. My understanding was the $7,200 covered the cost and the modem. Yeah, so I
The
don't...
$7,200 already covers the modem and the...
That's my
and the
understanding,
rent.
and yeah.
Could Ms. Ford answer that?
Yeah, could I ask Ms. Ford then?
Yeah, go ahead.
If this is additional to that?
It is additional to that.
And because I understand maybe the rent one, $500 additional.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Could you explain the additional?
The modem, we had to make sure we had a modem that was not originally in there. So we had to add the $2,900, and that also takes care of the use of the telephone service. We're using their Verizon service on those particular days.
Okay, and so the bulk of it is actually this coordinator position. This is $6,700.
That's correct. The coordinator position at $6,700 is several $1,000s less than what it would cost to pay travel, mileage, and overnight expenses for either my staff or anybody else's staff, or certainly for council service would be several $1,000s more than even having my staff do it. Again, this is not my office. It's just a video conferencing site.
Yes, and I agree. It isn't realistic to expect any council services staff to spend the 4 days a month out there. This seems like having the coordinator, is that what it's called, site coordinator?
We're just calling it that. It'll be a miscellaneous contract services for someone.
That seems reasonable. So thank you.
Okay, any other, Mr. Kern?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So yeah, the way I understood it, we already had the money in our budget to fund the existing, what we've had existing. I think we're getting into new ground here with the video conferencing sites, with having, needing a coordinator, needing another person, because all of the sites that we have right now are already staffed by a staff member. So this is, I'm not sure. I support the get a site coordinator there. I just don't know about the other, especially when we already have those funds in there. So, Mr. Yoshimoto, would you like to expand on this?
Yeah,
or give us
wanted
your
to
opinion?
explain. Yeah. So what this, Ms. Ford, you can add if you want to. What this amendment does is it transfers money to council services, miscellaneous contract services, $6,700. That's the projected amount that we had come up with in terms of hiring someone for that site. So she's adding money to that item of the budget to help, basically, even though we had already budgeted, meaning we believe we can handle it as is, but this just actually adds more to help make sure, I guess, we have enough money. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Have we looked into having like folks from the RSVP help with this, like volunteer folks that are active in the community, that are already out there? Part of the reason for having the video conferencing is to add transparency and for people that are involved to come out. I would think that there would be, even like through the RSVP program, as we do here with our information stations here at the county buildings. Couldn't we try to go down that route? I would be inclined to do something like that. I think there is the volunteerism out there, especially if we can make it easy. With that, I'll yield.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you, I'd love to hear your opinion on that, Mr. Yoshimoto.
Well, yeah, so that's something that has been considered, probably will be considered, in addition to having, someone who's hired there to be there those 4 days a month. Yeah. Who else wanted to? Miss?
I'm sorry, I guess maybe I didn't understand the answer from my question then, because of what Mr. Kern said. Well, is $7,200 that's already in our budget supposed to include rent and a coordinator?
No, not the coordinator, no.
And so, and you said earlier that there was a understanding before, or how are we supposed to staff the video conference sites? Like, for instance, are we going to have the same issue with Kohala then? How do we staff the video conference sites?
I think that's out of order. No, I think we're not on Kohala right now.
I'm asking the chair, but it's kind of important because $7,200, I think, is just to cover the rent.
The rent and the modem.
And the modem. So we would be at the same problem that we've been facing this last few months with regards to the staffing of it.
So we had a discussion, and basically, we would be able to find money from the existing budget that we have right now. So we can do it as it is right now. But what this amendment does is that this transfers money from the contingency relief fund to add that projected $6,700 to our miscellaneous contract item. So this is kind of like making sure we do have enough money. Ms. Ford, am I explaining it correctly? Because
You are.
Okay.
Let me go on and explain. Personally, I think Committee and Council Services should be staffing this location and the one in North Kohala as well. But it's financially unreasonable to do that. My staff, per an agreement made with the past council chair and the past council member and the clerk from last term, was that District 6 would staff this location until we got Committee and Council Services trained to do the job. Well, they've never been trained, and frankly, financially, it's not reasonable. And we all, Jay and Stuart and I all agree to that. It's not financially prudent to do this. Okay, so we had to come up with something better. Meanwhile, if your staff if the council and committee services staff were to come to the KAU site and staff it. They would be paid mileage. They would be staying overnight. They would have tremendous expenses. It was something less than $20,000. 17,000 comes to mind. Don't quote me on that one, but it's something really, really outrageous. Meanwhile, even though this is not my council office and I've been staffing it because of the prior agreement, I'm having to eat up any overnight expenses. There's only been one or two instances of that. It wasn't my personal staff that did it. And the other thing that happened is I'm having to pay mileage out of my DAE to staff a site that's not even my office. So my DAE was going down. It was just being like a vacuum cleaner going through my DAE, trying to staff this and provide these services into Ka'u. So when we put this budget together, we had to consider, is it going to be council committee services? Is it going to be Brenda's staff? Because it's not her office, she shouldn't do it. And so we put in enough money to cover the site coordinator. That's the least expensive way we can do it. To answer Mr. Kern's question, I have 4 volunteers that are doing this for me right now. I won't go into their names, but you've seen Fortune Today and Deborah Lee have both been there. It's kind of hard at that location for one person to handle the job because we have other activities going on around us in that room and outside of that room. And so it needs one person to monitor the equipment, which we know we've been having trouble with, and it takes the other person to deal with the other issues of people coming in asking questions. So I have 1 volunteer today. I have a total of 4. Here's the problem with volunteers. They have other priorities in their life. They get sick. They have surgeries, and all of these things have happened to one or more of my volunteers. Or in my husband's case, he's one of the volunteers. 4 months of the year, he does taxes, so he's not available on Wednesdays. So the volunteers are not a stable supply of personnel who are committed to be there. When you pay a salary, you get that kind of commitment from people. So we are going through the procurement process. We contacted procurement. We know what we have to do, and we're going to go out to bid for someone to do the site work. Now, are there still volunteers that can help? Yes, there's still volunteers who can help. But the main focus is going to be finding somebody who will commit to doing that job a minimum 4 days a month and sometimes 5 or 6 in the case of the budget cycle. So we had to make sure we had the modem, the phone lines covered, the site coordinator, and the rent for the building had to be covered. We had to put in enough to make sure we could get through a miscellaneous contract for a year. That's why it's the way it is.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm still a little bit unclear because you're saying that there's also money in the budget to fund the staffing out there?
That
Or
would
that's-
that would come.
Where
from-
is that?
That would be in the clerk council miscellaneous contract services of that 120 that you see, 120, 220. So basically what I'm saying is that we could do it now, that's our projection, but what this amendment does is it transfers money from the contingency relief for the 6,700 that we project and add it to that account to make sure that this is like, almost like just making sure that we have enough money. So it's helpful. I mean, that's to be sure if we want to make sure we're within budget for the Ka'u site. Am I stating that accurately?
I couldn't have done better myself.
Okay, so anyway.
Can I?
Okay, why don't we move on? Ms. Poindexter?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, it is budgeted for already. So even like taking care of a person being out there, it's already, we're just fluffing it up a little bit more. I mean, because you're saying that it's already in the 120, 220 here on the 213, 214 estimate. It's there already. That position is in here, the 120.
No, it's not. It's not
1,220?
there already. It's just something that we had looked at our numbers.
Right.
And because it's miscellaneous contract services, we can use it for a number of things, similar to the discussion we had here today.
So you could use it for that position, though, you're saying? That is covered?
That was my commitment to do that.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's covered. So this is just ensuring that in case it's not, doesn't get covered, it's going to be covered or something? It's like,
It's getting transferring money from the contingency relief fund to this account for the projected amount, because we all know that this is a projection, but not a hard and fast number. too.
Right.
So that's
but-
something to consider,
But we
too.
projected. That's how your budgets are based on projections.
But-
So if you come in with a budget to me and this is your projection, say a department comes in and I go, wait, but let me give you extra just in case these projections is wrong.
Well, so to be really clear, so council members understand, when this 120,220 was totaled up, it was not including the Ka'u site. But when we evaluated the numbers in discussing this, we figured we can do it. What this does is make sure that we can do it.
But when you guys relooked at the numbers, you guys said you guys could do it with the 122,220, right?
That's what we believe.
Right.
So Ms. Ford is just trying to make sure by transfer, I'm talking for you.
Yeah, but again, you're saying that you guys looked at the budget and you guys said that that could be handled with what we're projecting our budget to be.
Yes.
Right, okay, so that makes it clear for me.
Okay, gotcha. Anybody else? Mr. Onishi?
Thank you. Okay, what is the distance between the coroner's office to this site? Ms. Ford?
Valerie's the one that brought the numbers in.
No, but your people do the mileage. I said I estimated, I was looking, okay, I was looking online, but Ms. Ford would have a more accurate number because her staff pays for, she pays her staff
Yes.
out of DAE.
So what is the round trip from your office to the site in Ocean View and back?
Hang on.
Okay, thank you.
And from here.
Oh, and no,
It's here a little further.
I believe it's 46 miles, one way.
okay.
And may I just make one comment? It's not just the miles, it's the time. My staff leaves their home at 5:45 in the morning to get there in time to set up. What doesn't show up on this budget is I am burning my staff's time. I'm losing 4 to 6 days a month of my staff's time doing this. I was forced, and we've resolved this, thank you Jay and Stuart, I was forced to pay the mileage for this, even though I never should. That's not being reflected in here. So there's a lot more that it was costing me to provide this site, any place in Ka'u, but certainly at this location.
Okay, well, because of redistrict, this became your district, but prior to that, the councilwoman in that district wanted this site and was willing to, I guess, sacrifice, the time, the mileage, or whatever to open this up. So I guess you being a new council member, what this office was opened up was for the previous councilwoman there, okay, and then now you're taking over it. So to me, it's either you have it or you don't, okay? And if you really want it, then your staff needs to be able to go because of the previous the previous councilwoman, because she had no complaints before. She had never had asked for an increase in that budget. In fact, this 2012, 2013, she never asked for an increase for mileage, okay? Because she was happy to what she had. So to me, I think you should continue that. But then, that's why I have a hard time in supporting this part-time position. Now, the next thing, my question would be to you, Ms. Ford, is that have you contacted the RSVP, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, to find out if you could get staff or to get volunteers to be there on those days?
I believe I mentioned this, you were not in the room. We are going through the procurement process.
No, I don't want, no.
Excuse me, we are
but
going
wait,
through.
you're not answering my
Hold on.
question is, have you contacted the Retired Senior Volunteer Program with the EAD, which provides senior volunteers to help, like in this kind of situations? Yes or no?
No, because I
Okay,
have 4
thank you,
volunteers
thank you.
right now.
No, but thank you. Well, you could get more by requesting for that help. Okay, then another resource that the EAD does have is a senior employment program. Have you contacted them
Which program?
The senior employment program in the EAD.
Is this employment with CE?
EAD, Elderly Activities Division. Under them, there's these programs, and one is a senior employment program.
No.
They have federal funds, so you haven't really utilized our county resources to help you in providing staff. What we should do is take $25,000 each from each contingency fund from each district, and let's provide an office space for Ms. Ford and her staff to be in her district. And then we would solve all these problems. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Willie, I think you were next.
Okay, I don't think anyone has a problem on the site, adding the site rent, if that's, I mean, there seem to be a number of things here. And on the site coordinator, it is hard with just volunteers without having one main person that's consistent. But I feel that we ought to trust what Jay's saying, is that we may have enough as it is, but that if we didn't, that he would be willing to look at the this miscellaneous fund, rather than getting into the problems that Councilmember Kanuha brought up earlier. In other words, moving it out of a fund, then you can't plan for it in the contingency fund. So I think if, based on what Jay's saying, that he would be willing to utilize some of those miscellaneous contract funds if needed, I would be willing to, that we not go with this additional 6,700. That's not saying don't provide one person. I also wonder right here in our office in Hilo whether, yes, we'd have to pay mileage, but if one person even from this office could go down there. So I have a little bit of trouble adding a whole, going along with that one. And on the modem, if we need a modem, I keep hearing that we're already providing for the modem, so I still have a problem with that one. If there's no modem and we need a modem, I support it. If it's already in the budget, so I need that. I keep hearing people answer that, but I feel like it goes back and forth, one answer or the other. So I think we all want to support this site, and we want to pay whatever the additional rent is. If Jay's willing to go and if need be use the miscellaneous contract services, then I want I want to eliminate the contingency fund source. So again, I want to say, one question is, do we support it? Yes. Two, do we want to be giving a hard look at these costs and try to pare them down to the extent possible and not be taking from one source or another? So wherever, I still on the modem don't feel that I understand that additional amount yet. And I don't mean to get repetitive, I just don't. Jay said there is money for the modem. Or is it a bigger modem? I don't know.
Okay, too many questions here. Okay, first, the 7,200 that we had budgeted for the Ka'u site includes the rent for the site as it costs now and the modem. It does not include anything for staffing.
So it covers the 2,900 and the 500?
That, yes.
Okay, so...
But, or in addition to the conversation here involves the site coordinator as indicated in this amendment.
Right.
So
there are three things. I'm just trying to...
So when the budget was constructed originally, the council budget, this 120, 220 did not factor in a site coordinator for the Ka'u site. However, in looking at the numbers, we believe we can fit it within this.
Right,
So
and
what
I trust that.
So what Ms. Ford is trying to do is to transfer money, part of what she's trying to do is transfer the money from the contingency relief fund to clerk council services, miscellaneous contract services, to make sure that there's money.
Well, I want to go with the trust you rather than the pound the nail in.
You don't trust, but no.
I do trust you.
I'm kidding.
I do trust you.
No, but so I've explained that I
Yeah,
think. So
okay.
is that
But
clear?
you've now also said that this site rental isn't necessary. I know, Brenda, you probably,
Well, she's adding 500 for additional days because I think the current numbers that we have
Okay.
only have the
Okay.
twice a month, but she's factoring in
that we may need a few more.
for budget hearings, things
Okay.
like that were not
Then that
factored in.
sounds good. Then that sounds good. That's reasonable. On the 2,900, you're saying we've got a big enough modem.
You have to ask her, I don't know yet what.
Okay,
Yeah.
Brenda, please have patience with me, okay? Okay, the modem, and then on the, are you willing to trust, maybe I shouldn't be using that word. Are you willing to go along with Jay's suggestion that if need be, that we use those funds from miscellaneous contract rather than coming out of contingency?
We are using the money from the miscellaneous contracts. That $6,700 is being put into that particular fund so that we can pay for the site coordinator. One of the things I tried to do, and I don't know why this is failing so badly, but I wanted this to be really transparent where the money was coming from and where it was exactly going to, in addition to the $7,200, which is not really enough considering all the things I've been paying for. So when I moved this money around, I moved it to the location in the budget that was appropriate for those dollars to be in, and not just have it some lump sum that said X. Because Kohala's coming in here in a few minutes, and Kohala needs to be as transparent as Ka'u. Now, remember, if we don't expend this money, it stays in the legislative branch's budget, and it could be used for something else. But I think I've explained this repetitively, and I think these numbers are really clear, but we're needing the extra money out of the contingency fund. I don't know how else to explain this. It's as transparent as I can make it.
I just want to respond to her.
Go ahead, Ms. Willie.
It's a choice, but I still see we're taking it, assuming we need this, potentially out of that miscellaneous contract fund versus out of the contingency fund. And they are still two different fund sources. Brenda, they've got different numbers by them.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct. They absolutely have different numbers. But the reason I'm taking it out of contingency now and putting it in there is so that the council can see and understand what the money's being used for, and that's why it's being put in the correct location inside of the budget. I didn't want to put this in just a miscellaneous and then pay everything for Ka'u out of that. That's not reasonable. We need to be able to track this, so at the end of the year, we can look on the line items and we can see how much money we spend in each area for Ka'u, how much money we spend in each area for Kohala, so that it's very transparent. I believe in transparency.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Willie, you want to finish up, or?
No, I think I'm clear, and I don't know whether you would be willing to subtract 6,700 from the 120,220. I'm comfortable either way, so
Yeah, but,
I'm comfortable either way.
Okay, Ms. Poindexter.
yeah, so, okay. So, just to make it clear too, senior employment is not a volunteer, because it's not a volunteer service. Senior employment is federally funded to the county, and it employs the seniors, those who qualify to be what they call in the senior age. So those senior employment, we don't end up paying out of our budget. That is, we apply for it, and they interview different seniors, and then you place the seniors. They're actually employed. It's not a volunteer, that program. So I just wanted to make that clear. So that's another resource for us at all of our sites. And I think Margaret will explain, I think she's going to utilize some of that. And again, when I heard Margaret Willie say maybe we can Councilmember Willie say, then take out the amount from the 120,220, that 6,007, and no, it's what Jay was saying again, is that at first it wasn't in that budget, but when they looked at it again, they can manage to have that contract position in in that amount. So right now, I'm leaning not to supporting this the way it is, because we have, like Jay was saying, they looked at it, they feel that they can do it with that amount, and if,
Go ahead.
well, okay, that when you guys re-looked at this, you guys could fit that in, or the 120, 220. Okay, but anyway, so the other option is, let's go to the county and let's go get a employed senior.
Okay. Ms. Yoff, you have your light on, you wanted to?
Thank you. I'm confident now that we all do support the KAU site and future sites for video conferencing to allow more participation in our governmental process. And I wanted to thank you and Stuart for making sure that the site KAU was included in this legislative department's budget. I also think that your good faith has pretty much shown that we'll work out a way to staff it properly, whether it means taking it from this already council services budget account, but to provide a way to have a coordinator or somebody that lives nearby to staff it. I think you've convinced me that you're willing to work with Ms. Ford to pay for that service, because it is difficult to find enough volunteers. And to take away from her staff or anyone else's staff at this point is also a burden. So I'm comfortable. I trust that you've made an effort in this direction to fund the site, and that's, even though it's new and we're just seeing how it works, and we're even thinking about it additional. So I feel good that you've included it in the budget. I don't think Ms. Ford feels as confident, and that's why she's brought forth this additional way of transferring money. But I'd say let's give it a try before we start having to amend or take out of different accounts. I think you've shown good faith by putting it into our budget. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree. I think with Mr. Onishi and Mrs. Poindexter that there should, that, as I had mentioned earlier, that the RSVP program and any of the other elderly service volunteer programs should be looked into as the first source. I think outside of that, that with inside our existing budget we have without this, that we can make it work. That's the intention that we have. Is we do want KAU video conferencing to be there, and we will make this work. So I do not support this. I call for the question.
There's a call for the question. No, it's non-debatable. Mr. Clerk.
Oh, wait. I want to bring up the rules on this.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. This is not about a debate. This is a point of order. Rule 14 on motions, a call for the question. I'm going to read it exactly as it's written. The object of this motion is to cut off debate. However, when this motion is carried by 2/3 majority, the introducer of the main subject under discussion shall be permitted to close the debate, after which the main question shall be put, provided, however, that the introducer may delegate to another such person the right to close. We've been doing this wrong all this time. So I have the right to close before the call for the question, and I'm delegating to Mr. Yoshimoto.
So
The vote, the call for the question takes 6 votes.
after,
After it closes by the originator or my delegated
Okay.
person, and you're it, pal.
I want to make sure we're reading the rule correctly, because it says here, when this motion is carried by 2/3 majority, so actually, we vote on the call for the question, and if it passes by 2/3, then the introducer of the main subject under discussion shall be permitted to close. So we vote on it first, that's not debatable, and if it passes, then Ms. Ford has the last shot at it, which she can delegate. Okay, so Mr. Clerk, the vote on the call for the question.
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
No.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi.
Aye.
Ms. Poindexter.
Aye.
Ms. Willie.
No.
Chair Yoshimoto.
No.
Chair Yoshimoto, you have 6 ayes.
Okay, so motion carries, and then, so Ms. Ford has delegated it to me. Okay, I think this is the 4th time I'm going to say this, so let me think of a different way to say it. Maybe this is really much more simpler. I support the amendment because it basically allots for the money that we had projected that a site coordinator would cost into the miscellaneous contract services section of the budget. That would make our budgeting throughout the year safer. I guess that's the best way to put it. Now, it's a policy decision on the council members if they feel like we can do it under the existing numbers, but keep in mind that even though, we said we believe we can, and we hope we can, I mean, that's how we budget ourselves, right? We can't spend more money than we have. So this, again, really makes sure, and I wouldn't call it anything other than what it is, which is adding money from the contingency relief account specifically for a site coordinator. Now, whether that happens, whether we use volunteers or a combination of such, we can't predict that. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's just up to the council members if they want to support this amendment and this approach in budgeting for this position. So anyway, with that,
So you're saying you
no, that's it. Yeah, okay. So, Mr. Clerk, on the amendment.
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
No.
Mr. Kern.
No.
Mr. Onishi.
No.
Ms. Poindexter.
No.
Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Chair Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Yoshimoto, you have 5 ayes.
Okay, so motion passes. Next one, Ms. Ford.
So the motion passed?
Yep.
This passed?
Yes.
We're sure. Okay.
Don't push your luck, Ms. Ford, if you can.
Thank you to everyone who voted aye. Okay, the next...